He said he can't forgive what I did before the kids were even born, and now, he's leaving me with nothing. That's what I screamed into the phone the night my husband walked out. 16 years of marriage, 16 years of building a life together, and with one quiet, devastating conversation, it all came crashing down. I thought I was safe. I thought what I had done back then was long buried, tucked away in the shadows of our early relationship. But apparently, the past doesn't stay hidden forever. I remember the look on his face, calm, steady, unflinching, as he told me he was filing for divorce. No screaming, no dramatic outburst, just cold certainty. He said my betrayals had poisoned everything we'd built, and he couldn't pretend anymore. I begged, I pleaded, I told him I was young, I was stupid, it was before the kids, before our family even began. But he didn't care. To him, lies are lies and betrayal is betrayal. Now here I am, standing in the wreckage of a life I thought was unshakable. The house feels empty, my children look at me differently, and the man who once promised forever won't even look me in the eye. And the worst part? I know exactly why. I cheated, twice. 2 mistakes I swore would never matter. But to understand why my husband is walking away after 16 years, you need to hear what I did before we ever became parents. I met him when I was 22. He wasn't flashy, not the kind of guy who turned heads when he walked into a room. But he had something more valuable: stability. He was calm, grounded, the kind of man who worked hard and meant what he said. From the very beginning, he looked at me like I was the center of his world, and I won't lie, I loved it. I loved how safe he made me feel, how he'd show up exactly when he said he would, how I never had to wonder if he was out with someone else. He fell fast. Within months he was talking about forever, about building a home, about family. I wasn't sure if I felt the same depth, but I enjoyed being adored. He supported my dreams without hesitation. When I changed jobs 3 times in 1 year, he never complained. When I doubted myself, he told me I was destined for more. He was my rock, the kind of partner women say they wish they had. But even then, there were signs, little cracks I chose to ignore. I liked attention more than I admitted. I'd flirt with other men at parties just to feel the thrill, and when he gave me a look, I'd laugh it off, calling him too serious. Sometimes, when he'd share something heartfelt, I'd brush it aside or tease him for being too soft. He never snapped back, never fought me. He just smiled, swallowed his pride, and kept loving me. Looking back now, I realize how much he gave, how much of himself he poured into me while I basked in it all. He believed in second chances, in forgiveness, in building something stronger together. And that's why he didn't see what was coming. He thought my flaws were harmless quirks. I thought they were things I could outgrow. But the truth is, those little cracks were only the beginning. I thought I could keep my secrets buried forever, but the truth has a way of clawing its way back. The first time it happened, I told myself it wasn't real. It was just a fling, nothing more. I was 24, sent on a work trip with a team of colleagues, and one night, after too many drinks, I crossed a line with a coworker. It was quick, careless, and the very next morning, I looked at myself in the mirror and swore I'd never let it happen again. I convinced myself it didn't matter. After all, it was before kids, before mortgages, before the life we were building had really begun. He'd never know, I reasoned, and what he didn't know couldn't hurt him. But lies have a way of multiplying. A year later, at a party, I reconnected with an old boyfriend. The music was loud, the drinks flowed, and the nostalgia was intoxicating. One stolen kiss turned into something more, and once again, I betrayed the man who loved me more than anything. I told myself the same thing I did before. It didn't mean anything. I was young, reckless. He'd never find out. Meanwhile, my husband only grew more devoted. He was steady, building his career, supporting me every step of the way. He celebrated my smallest wins as if they were his own, held me through every setback, and treated me with a patience that almost made me feel guilty. Almost. But instead of confessing, I buried the guilt deep down, convinced that time would erase it. As the years passed, cracks began to show in other ways. I started resenting his predictability, the very trait I once admired. At gatherings, I'd tease him in front of friends, calling him boring or too safe. I made jokes at his expense, brushing off the hurt in his eyes as if it didn't matter. He never retaliated. He'd just smile weakly and let it go, while our friends exchanged uncomfortable glances. He'd try to open up about how he felt, how my words stung, how my dismissive tone cut deeper than I realized. And every time I twisted it back on him. "You're too sensitive," I'd say. "Why can't you just take a joke?" Gaslighting became second nature to me. I couldn't let him see the truth hiding beneath my defensiveness, that the guilt I carried was turning into poison. But instead of pulling away, he doubled down on loyalty. He planned date nights, surprised me with small gifts, and poured himself into being the perfect partner. And the cruel irony? The more he loved me, the more restless I felt. I craved excitement, attention, anything to make me feel like I mattered beyond the safe little box he'd built around me. Looking back now, I see how twisted it was. He was trying to save our marriage, while I was too busy mocking the very qualities that made him extraordinary. For years, I told myself he'd never find out, that my betrayals would stay buried in the past, hidden beneath layers of denial and half-hearted justifications. But one day, I slipped, and he finally learned the truth I thought I had buried forever. For 16 years, I thought I had outrun the past. We had children now, a home filled with memories, a routine that felt permanent. I told myself the mistakes I made before motherhood didn't matter anymore, that I had successfully buried them under layers of time and silence. But the thing about secrets is they don't stay quiet forever. It happened one evening when an old friend of mine stopped by unexpectedly. We were sitting in the living room with my husband when she casually mentioned, half laughing, "Remember that party back in the day, when you disappeared with your ex?" She thought it was harmless, just nostalgia. But I saw the shift in my husband's face instantly. His eyes narrowed, not with anger, but with that steady, piercing focus I had learned to fear. Later that night, he confronted me. Calm, measured, almost too calm. He asked, "What happened back then? And don't lie to me." My stomach dropped. For a moment, I considered spinning another excuse, but something in his tone told me it wouldn't work this time. So I admitted it partially. I told him about the kiss, about how it didn't mean anything. I minimized, deflected, tried to make it sound like a youthful mistake. His silence was worse than shouting. He just stared at me, and the weight of his disappointment crushed me more than any argument could. But he pressed further. "Was that the only time?" His voice cracked slightly, the first hint of pain breaking through. And in that moment, I couldn't hold the lie together. I confessed the work trip, the coworker, the night I swore I'd never speak of again. His hands shook. His voice dropped lower. "So I built my entire family, my entire life on lies?" Panicked, I begged. I told him it was before the kids, before we were truly us. I told him it shouldn't matter anymore. He just shook his head. "It always mattered. You just didn't want it to." The more I pleaded, the more detached he became. His calmness cut deeper than rage ever could. Desperation turned me cruel. And in the worst mistake of my life, I snapped, "You're acting like such a martyr. It's pathetic. You're still here, aren't you?" That was it. His eyes hardened in a way I'd never seen before. He stood up, straightened his shoulders, and delivered the line that ended everything. "You made me build a family on betrayal. I can't stay married to you." The next morning, he didn't shout. He didn't slam doors. He simply gathered his things, quietly told the kids he loved them, and left. A week later, divorce papers arrived, neat and final, with his signature already inked at the bottom. And just like that, my perfect life shattered, and everyone around me took his side. The divorce wasn't just between me and him, it was between me and everyone we knew. Friends I'd had for years suddenly stopped answering my calls. People I thought were my confidants looked at me with disgust, whispering behind my back. His family, who once welcomed me as their own daughter, cut me off completely. His mother's last words to me were cold and sharp. "After everything he gave you, this is how you repay him." Even my children changed. They didn't scream at me, didn't confront me outright, but their silence spoke louder than words. They spent more time with him, asked fewer questions about me, and when they did look at me, it was with eyes that carried confusion and quiet judgment. I had always been mom, but now I was the woman who had broken their father's heart. The financial struggles hit next. With the divorce finalized, I lost the stability I'd taken for granted. Bills piled up, luxuries disappeared, and the life I once flaunted online became a ghost of itself. I'd scroll through my phone, searching for someone, anyone, to vent to, but every name on my contact list felt like a dead end. Isolation settled in like a punishment I couldn't escape. And then there was the court of public opinion. Stories like mine always find their way into whispers, into posts, into comment sections. On Reddit, people were brutal. 16 years too late, but glad he finally left. Cheating before kids is still cheating. He deserved honesty. This is why you don't ignore red flags. Every comment cut deeper than the last. Strangers judged me with a clarity my own heart refused to accept. They didn't care about my excuses, about how young I was, or how it didn't mean anything. To them, I was the villain, and maybe they were right. For the first time, I realized my husband wasn't just the hero in his own story. He was the hero in everyone else's too. His calm, his patience, his loyalty, it all stood in stark contrast to my selfishness, my lies, my arrogance. People rallied around him, validated his choice, and painted me exactly as I was. The woman who had everything and destroyed it with her own hands. With nothing left, no husband, no home, no family, I was forced to face the one truth I'd been running from all along. He found peace in the end, though not in the way I had ever imagined. While I stumbled through the ruins of what I had destroyed, he rebuilt his life with quiet dignity. He poured himself into our children, showing them that loyalty and love could survive even after betrayal. He rediscovered his self-respect, not by staying with me, but by walking away from someone who had taken his devotion for granted. And though it hurts to admit, I know he will thrive without me. He found peace in the end, though not in the way I had ever imagined. While I stumbled through the ruins of what I had destroyed, he rebuilt his life with quiet dignity. He poured himself into our children, showing them that loyalty and love could survive even after betrayal. He rediscovered his self-respect, not by staying with me, but by walking away from someone who had taken his devotion for granted. And though it hurts to admit, I know he will thrive without me. As for me, I am left with the bitter taste of regret. I thought I was untouchable, that the mistakes I made before children, before family, would never catch up to me. I thought loyalty didn't matter if I could smile, charm, and distract. I was wrong. Every time I look in the mirror, I see the woman who gambled with love and lost. This feels like one of those heartbreaking Reddit stories you stumble upon late at night. The kind you read in are /relationships or aita, shaking your head at the arrogance, the selfishness, the betrayal. And now I am the villain in my own story. Because when cheating and lies come out, heartbreak is inevitable. The lesson is cruel but simple. Secrets don't stay buried. Betrayal, no matter how old, rots the roots of trust until the whole foundation crumbles. Protect your self-worth, protect your partner's heart, and never convince yourself that loyalty is optional. Stories like this aren't just entertainment. They're emotional storytelling lessons in self-worth, boundaries, and respect. I wish I had learned them before it was too late. And that's how I lost everything, because of two choices I made before I ever became a mother. Choices I can never take back.